Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Evolving Women. I'm Teresa Lysam, and I'm here with my amazing guest co-host, April Wyett. Hi, April.
Hello. Thank you so much, Teresa, for having me today.
Oh, I am so delighted you're here. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. So I'm just going to jump right in, and I'm going to let everybody know who's listening that you were a full-time RVer up until recently. You do some breath work, some somatic work. You're a retreat leader. You facilitate restorative practices, which is a lot. And I'd love to know, is this something you've always been into? Is it something that you came to during the course of your life? And so, can you give us a little bit of the backstory, how you got to where you're at today, offering all this awesome stuff?
Oh, yes. And just like everybody else's journey, it's as we're in it, we learn more about ourselves really along the way. And that's what really happened with me. So I grew up in the Pacific Northwest in the woods. That was my first home. I had a very kind of traumatic childhood. And so I was more in tune with nature, with my surroundings, the environment. I felt more safe there.
Mm.
And then I later on in life married a Navy man. And so that started the adventure. That started the
Mm.
travel. I lived in Japan for a total of 10 years. I believe that gave me that space to really tune into myself and really immerse into the culture and explore and know that I don't know everything, right? When you're in a totally different country and you're living
Yeah.
there for that length of time, you really have to either immerse or resist. And so
Mm.
I really leaned into that. So that was a beautiful experience. And I believe it enhanced my spirituality as I did
Mm.
an overnight climb on Mount Fuji.
Wow.
And we reached the top at sunrise, and there's a torii gate, the red gate at the top. And I stood there and watched the sun come through, and they call it the land of the rising sun, the red
Mm-hmm.
sun. And it was
Mm.
beautiful. And it was like time stood still. Everything was quiet. And it was just like something was definitely a shift there for me.
Mm.
Yes. And then we returned back just about, I think it was like a year after that, back to the States. And then that's when I discovered Reiki. That's when I realized, okay, this is part of that spiritual essence of me, and that we're really all connected.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
Reiki is just another language for chi or universal life force energy or divine energy, or even you might even say God, right? It's just being aware and witnessing we are all one. We're not separated. And so working with that and keeping that practice for myself, that really helped me through very
Mm.
hard times as my husband was forced into retirement. We moved back to Iowa, his hometown, not a place that I wanted to be, but I did. I prayed for the highest good for my family. And when I received the news, our minds always say, well, it should be this way, or I thought
Yes.
it was going to
Yeah.
be that way. And then
Yep.
it was just like put through like a knife. And I heard you prayed for great intention, the highest good for your family, and this is what you received.
Mm.
And
Wow.
I paused and I said, yes, yes, that's right. There's something here that I
Mm.
don't know yet. And I think that's the golden thread there, that people think that it needs to be a certain way. Our
Yes.
minds think it's got it all planned out, and really God, universe, whomever you believe your higher power to be, really has more for us. And when we're open to receive more, to be curious and not get angry. Why Iowa? Why did
Mm-hmm.
you have to retire? You know, like
Yes.
blame it on my husband, blame it on the
Mm-hmm.
Navy,
Mm-hmm.
blame it on
Mm-hmm.
Iowa.
Yeah, yeah.
That doesn't do any good, right? So
Mm-hmm.
being in that space, then one day there was an email that came in. I never open up. It was an email from military.gov, and it said something about a yellow ribbon program that you and your dependents, I am a dependent of my husband,
Mm-hmm.
this is right
Mm-hmm.
before he retired, can go back to school. There's a scholarship program, and I never thought about going back to school. And so I opened it up and it was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is what I need to do for myself. And so then I started following that. And so then I went back to school. I received my degree. I was working with an amazing nonprofit here in Des Moines, Iowa. And then I realized, well, I need to do something more for myself then, also, right? As you keep going on that thread and keep following
Mm-hmm.
things. So then I opened up Living with Intention and started working with another nonprofit. And I was working in correctional facilities with both men
Mm.
and women.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was there to give them tools and resources because they were returning citizens and they were going for work and they needed resources. So how are they going to, regulate their nervous system? How are they
Mm-hmm.
going to be more focused and more present? And so it started with a little box breathing. You breathe in for
Mm-hmm.
4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. And Teresa, the shift on their faces after they came out
Mm.
from just 3 rounds of that box breathing,
Wow.
they'd never experienced being in the parasympathetic nervous system, the
Mm.
rest and digest. They're always on
Yeah, yeah.
because science shows that the baby is receiving everything that the mother receives. So think about the cycle, that
Mm.
cycle, that kind of vicious cycle, right? And
Yeah.
and our heart is the first organ that develops, and that's where the nervous system develops from. So them experiencing that and just the look on their faces of what just happened,
Mm.
then it made me think, oh, there's something to this breath work. And this was back in 2018. And so that's when I started looking into the breath work. So being curious about myself, not taking things too seriously, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, with my husband receiving those, retirement and going back to Iowa, just being open to opportunities. That's the key right there
Yeah, I
because we
love
don't know everything.
yeah, and
We
I
really,
love when you just stepped into something. You just kept following whatever opened up for you.
yes.
And I think, and you talked about resistance. We resist that, those doors that are opening, those opportunities we're being invited to step into. Sometimes we don't always say yes to them.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And it's because of the uncertainty. Our minds say,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about that. It
Yep.
looks too hard, or I'm
Yes.
too scared. I'm not enough, or
Yes.
that's not me, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, oh, my body is expressing, it's activated
Mm-hmm.
right now. This is my body's language talking and not believing in everything that our minds say because it's really not true. I call it the BS, right? That's our belief system. And our beliefs are things, the thoughts that we just have thought over and over and over again
Yep.
that really ingrain into our belief systems. And some of the belief systems are great and some of them are not so
Yes,
much. So
yes.
it's just recognizing that pattern and everything that comes from that.
Hmm. Yeah, when I first heard that concept, that beliefs were basically the cause of everything. It was like the starting point of so many things. Like I just couldn't grasp it. And then the definition basically of belief is something you just keep repeating over and over and over. And like that's all it is.
All
Like
it is.
if we could absorb those beliefs unintentionally and unconsciously from, our experiences as we move along this life, then why can't we change those beliefs and repeat something new over and over, which is a simple thing, but not always easy to do.
Right? Because of we're already carved out those neural pathways in
Yes,
our brain. This is
yes.
neuroplasticity. And so it takes
Mm-hmm.
time to integrate that and reprogram and carve out a new neural pathway.
Yes,
And
yes.
guess what? If you're stressed, if things aren't going your way that day, your brain literally will default right back into
Yes.
those old neural pathways because it's
Mm-hmm.
easy to manage. It
Yes.
doesn't mean that that's the easy thing to do. I think a lot of, especially women, right, beat ourselves up over why do I keep going back to
Mm-hmm.
this? How come, I know I need to do X, Y, Z, but yeah, I just keep reverting back to this. So
Yeah.
it's old conditioning, and it also has a lot to do with our bodies too. As I learned with biodynamic breath work and trauma release system is the somatics, the fascia, the the connected tissue in between our muscles. It holds emotion. It holds memory. And when I read that, I thought, oh, that's interesting. But until I had literally a life-changing experience in one of my trainings to where like I said, I was in a horrific, uh, my childhood wasn't, it was very traumatizing. And I had a horrific car accident when I was 9. And my mother was heavily influenced under prescription drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And she rolled the car, and I flew out the back window. I remember hearing the spray of gravel, but I didn't know how I got out of the car. I just woke up. My left leg was under the passenger side rear tire. And I remember looking up and seeing the car. And then she didn't know I was outside the car. People were telling
Mm-hmm.
her on the other side of the car, turn the car off. And so she went through the gears. So she drove over my leg, and then she had to go in neutral and then reverse. She drove over my leg again. So when I was on the second time, then I really started screaming, mommy, mommy, I'm 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that trauma, I remembered that part, but I never knew how I got out of the car. And so in a breathwork session, which was very intense because it's a training, so I'm not saying that my clients receive this exact what I'm describing here, but I my body remembered as I was breathing. My support person touched right behind my heart where I'd been holding all the grief, holding resentment towards my mother, everything that happened to a child that doesn't understand
Yeah.
why.
Right.
And she touched into that, and my body just went into this like a backward sea. That's how I can describe it. And this voice just came out of me, this wail
Mm.
of grief, of all the things. And in that moment, Teresa, the image, I saw my 9-year-old self fly out the back window.
Ooh,
I
wow.
saw how the car actually kind of protected me as we rolled together and I landed the way I did.
Mm.
Um, it was just phenomenal. And then it was like, oh my gosh, I could let that go. My body had been holding
Mm.
that for me
Wow.
all this time because that little 9-year-old didn't know how to process all of that up
Yes,
here.
yes.
So the body holds everything for us. It's amazing.
Wow.
And also it's protecting us too.
Right. Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, that is a concept too that a lot of us find hard to grasp. We try to intellectually understand it. Our body remembers, but my brain doesn't, because we're all
Mhm.
about the brain in this society, the intellect, trying to figure things out with logic and stuff. But that's not always the route that we need to follow. And for you to allow us to understand that more fully here in this episode, that our body is holding, whether we realize it or not, our body is holding how many experiences throughout our lifetime. It could be a minor experience, it could be a huge
Mhm.
one like you just talked about, but it's all being held within us and we don't even know what
Yes.
is
Well, we
there.
do. We do, but we tend to push it away, right?
Well,
The
right.
pit of your stomach, if we have a confrontation with somebody or um, even, being in different environments, being with different people, how are you feeling? Our bodies
Hmm.
are constantly communicating to us, but our mind says, "Oh, it's because this person makes me feel that way. It's because of X, Y, and Z."
Right, right.
But it's really our responsibility. Yes, these experiences happened and it's true. Although to move forward and to really lean in and listen, that's really what takes courage. This is why the mind wants to revert away, that it's painful. I don't
Hmm.
have time for that. It's going to take a lot of energy to do that. It's trying to
Right,
talk us out of it because it's trying to protect you as
right.
well. And it's not right or wrong either. I want everybody to hear that too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just meeting yourself where you're at and leaning in and just listening. Well, why is my throat kind of tight when I'm trying to speak my truth to someone?
Right.
Um, it's just interesting to think about that, how our body is always talking to us.
And we, in this culture of the States, I think we're so dismissive of emotions. We downplay them. We don't feel they're important. Therefore, we stuff them down. We ignore them. But like you said, if our body is still taking them in, whether we're dismissing those emotions or not, it's all being categorized, filed. I don't know what the terminology would be. And we're using energy to maintain those
Yes.
within ourselves. Like you said, we're going to say doing the work, going in and exploring and having the courage to confront some of those, like do the grieving process. That takes energy too, but so does holding on to all of those things in our body
Yes.
over
Yes. And
our
it can be
lifetime.
yeah, it can be very scary at first to even, especially if somebody's has a lot of trauma, sexual abuse, anything like that. That's a lot of trauma. And sometimes the body doesn't feel safe.
Mm,
So when I work with clients that have had complex PTSD or other traumas like that, I start on the outside, right? What feels safe out here? How is your environment? What can you notice that feels a little easier around you? Some people, they it isn't about sitting down and taking a breath and getting in right away. I'm finding that there are very few people, those people that have done more work, yes, they can sit with themselves a little easier. But those that are just beginning, let's start easy. Let's start
mm,
just melting
love
those
that.
little layers on the outside.
Love
That's
that.
what it's all about, is just ease and having ease and grace for ourselves in the
Hmm.
process.
Yeah.
I'm not here to throw a stick of dynamite in there and saying, we're gonna get in here and do this breath work and boom. No, that's re-traumatizing.
Hmm.
That does not work. Your body right away is gonna say, no way. It's gonna put up
Right.
that barrier.
Yep. Yep.
There's not going to be any ounce of breath that you can even get in to that space
Mm.
because it's protecting you. That's the key right there. And I think a lot of people need to hear this. If people are curious about breath work, please do your research. Please search, look it up, search the practitioner, make sure they're trauma informed. There's
Mm.
so many breathwork practices out there, and everything fits people in different seasons of their
Hmm.
life. It's like yoga, right? Are you into the yin yoga, soft
Hmm.
flowing, or is
Hmm.
it the hot yoga with weights? I don't know, but find what fits you. And also, just because it worked for your friend doesn't mean
Mm.
it's going to work for you either. So really lean in and ask yourself and do the research. It's very important because I've had several clients that have been re-traumatized by breath work or
Oh, wow.
other types of therapy to where they were like, these, they didn't listen to me. They kept
Mm.
saying, we need to do this, we need to keep going. And the
Hmm.
body's like, no,
Mm.
no, it's not safe.
Wow. Sounds like they were pushing their agenda on their
Yes,
modality on that person who wasn't ready for it. And I love that you said start easy, melt those layers. I love that
yes.
phrase. You're melting them little by little, not going
Hmm.
in and dynamiting them open.
No.
That's
I
great.
don't
I
want
love
that either. You know,
that.
I want it to be easy and uh, accessible. And this is where we start to trust
Mm,
ourselves,
yes, yes,
trust our
yeah.
body and just being present, even noticing when those aches or when emotions come in and just allowing that to ease also. Because that's also energy moving through the body. The body's holding all of that for us.
Yeah. I
And
think,
I want everybody to hear also that it's not all heavy, lower frequency things either. I've had clients laugh
mm,
and be joyful and have so much happening for them. And, you know, of course, I've had the tears and I've had grief, you know, come up for myself and clients. And afterwards, then they see a different light because it's the experience, it's being and holding ourselves in that way. And sanctuary is also a big part of it. I This is what I love to do is hold that sanctuary for others, to be a
mm,
witness for your journey and know that you're not alone. Because most of the time, trauma, we feel like we're alone. We had to go through it by ourselves, that nobody
mhm,
would understand us.
right. Right. And I know I've heard little t, big T. Like the trauma doesn't have to be huge. It
Mhm.
could be small, but at that moment in time we interpreted it and held on to that at that moment. Whether it was something very minor and another person would not think that that was a trauma, but for us it was.
Most definitely. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, so much in there. Thank you so much. I know awareness is huge.
Yes,
What did I just saw a quote recently. Awareness is the precursor to change. So just having that awareness is a huge step, I think, because
it
we go through
is.
life so frequently with no awareness whatsoever, just running on autopilot,
And
so
it's so true. That's when we're in the sympathetic nervous system, the fight, flight, freeze, fawning, the
mhm.
go, go, go. I have to keep going. And if I
Yes.
stop, then everything's going to fall apart.
Yes, yes, yeah.
And this is when the body, and I'm sure I can raise my hand to this too. If you keep going and pushing, what happens? Fatigue, you
Mm-hmm.
get sick.
Mm-hmm.
Your
Yep.
body says,
Yep.
I can't hold this any longer. I'm going to make you shut down. you're on the couch for a couple days or a week. And then,
Yes.
of
Yeah.
course, then our minds are saying, I'm so far behind on all the things instead
Hmm.
of accepting of, okay, I'm accepting, I'm embracing this space. Thank you, body,
Yes.
for recovering and supporting me because we wouldn't be here with our bodies.
I
We,
know.
we
Yeah,
need our bodies.
we
We're
do.
earthly beings.
And I just giving ourselves grace to step into that, listening to our body, taking it easy when we need to, and honoring, what it's trying to share with us. And in again, it's a cultural societal thing. The go, 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 do, do. Don't think about it, just keep producing, keep taking the action. And
Mhm.
it's not really
Because that's then that shows that you're valuable.
exactly,
That
exactly.
and that's actually what I grew up with. Um, as I was a caretaker for my mom and doing household chores, I literally would say, I'm the little red hen. Do you
Mm,
remember that story, Little Red
hmm.
Hen?
Yeah,
She asked all the farm animals, will you help me make bread? And everyone said, no. Will you help me, plant the wheat? No. So she did everything herself. And then when she sat down at the table to eat the bread, she asked, who will help me eat the bread? And everybody said, yes, I will.
of
Of course they
course.
would.
Of
And she
course.
said, no, I'm going to sit down and enjoy it myself. Well, all the time I said I was a little red hen, it was I do everything
Hmm.
on my own. I don't ask for help
Hmm.
because I didn't receive help when I was growing up. Although it wasn't until about 3 years ago, Teresa, that I realized the little red hen sat down to eat the bread, and I never did.
Mm,
I
mm,
didn't savor my accomplishments. I would just take the bread out of the oven figuratively, put it on the table, and then think, okay, what next? What else
yeah,
do I
oh
have to
yeah.
do over
Oh
here?
yeah.
So learning to
Yes.
just slow down a little bit, appreciate everything that we've done, even if it's that day you did laundry, you have
Yes.
clean
Yes.
clothes, you
Yes.
took a shower, hooray.
Hmm.
You're taking care of yourself. That's what's important. This is what living is all about.
Yes.
It's not the doing, it's the experiences. As you said, it's all about experiences. We can't read or watch YouTube videos all day about how to be grounded or present or at breath work. You have to really have the experience.
Mm,
That's what
yeah.
shifts, that's what recalibrates our nervous system. And it's
Mm,
by repetition, it's the drops in the bucket. So,
mm,
not getting discouraged 2 weeks into it, because that's really the breaking point for any diet,
mm,
any like revamping of work or anything. Like you're 2 weeks into it and you're like, I'm still feeling frustrated.
mm-hmm.
That frustration, that's your friend.
Mm,
It's giving you the little breadcrumbs. It's telling you, oh, see that pattern? Oh, where are you holding this in your body right now? How can you pause? How can you just be in this moment? And this is where we can receive more of ourselves.
mm,
It's building a relationships to us. That's what it is.
mm. Love that.
No one else can give it to us.
And we
I'm
can
sure
give our,
you can
I
I'm
would
sure
say
you can attest to that.
we can give ourselves permission to step into that. We don't need permission from anybody else. And that's
Correct.
another concept that sounds really easy or simple to do, but it's not always that easy.
It
Um,
is not.
yeah.
Yes.
And I just want to circle back to savoring our accomplishments, celebrating our accomplishments, no
Mhm.
matter how big or how small. We need to acknowledge those for ourselves. And as women, because my whole life was like that. I didn't take the time to celebrate what I had just accomplished. Like you said, it's just time to go on to the next one. Check that one off. Okay, what's coming up next? And again, I think that's a programming or a societal thing. Just keep the ball
Yes.
rolling And I think we really need to stop that, break that cycle, and learn to celebrate ourselves and encourage other people to celebrate, other women especially, to celebrate
Yeah,
what they just accomplished. Again, big or
exactly.
small,
Yes.
matter.
And we're all mirrors of each other too. So
Mhm.
think about who you're surrounding yourself with also. Are other people celebrating you?
Yes. Yeah.
Or are they talking about themselves a lot? And maybe you're feeling expectation to support them over your own needs.
Hmm.
This goes for women and men, you know.
True. True.
And so being in that space saying, "Oh, I always feel great when I'm around Teresa."
Mm.
You know, we had our first call and it was like, "Yes, let's have a conversation here." We gelled really well. You know, it's that energy, it's that reciprocity. And that's how relationships needs to be built.
Right.
And also with ourselves too.
Mm.
It all starts with us. We're the ripple effect.
Oh my
And
gosh.
once we start giving back to ourselves, that shifts. It
Yes.
shifts our environment, the people that we connect with. New people will come in,
Hmm.
and old people, they might kind of fade into the background, and that's okay. You know, they might come
Right.
back around. I've had that happen.
Hmm.
And it's knowing that, you know, you need to show up for yourself. And as I say, keep living with intention. You know, what is my
Hmm.
intention? Where is my attention on my
Hmm.
intention?
Oh my gosh. So much good
I
stuff.
know we
We
could
could
keep
talk for
talking and
another hour. So many things we could come back around to. I do want to personally thank you for being a military spouse. I know military families, it's a big thing to, and it's important what you're doing, but I am so grateful to everybody who's going through that. I know that plays out differently for so many people, but everybody acknowledges the servicemen, the people in the military, but I like to acknowledge the families that are supporting that
mm,
military person.
hmm.
So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I love that it did open up your world in a way that if you weren't in that relationship, your life would have turned out differently.
Oh, most definitely. Yes. And again, it's our own perceptions because in Japan, you know, there was a lot of military wives. The ship would leave, all the wives
Mm,
were
oh
left on
yeah,
base,
yeah.
and husbands. There were a few husbands, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, they didn't go off base. They didn't explore the culture. And
Mm,
I was so grateful that I did, that I went off base, that I made Japanese friends, that
mm,
I did all the things that I did. Um, and I could keep going on about that because it's continuing because I just went back to Japan this last October and I did
yeah.
a Tomo tour. So I'm all about retreats and tours to bring women together to have amazing, rich cultural experiences and also experiences together. You know, this is how we evolve and grow.
Mm, ooh, that sounds fabulous. So if someone listening would love to share those experiences with you and go on one of your trips, how can they connect with you to do that?
Oh, thank you, Teresa. And it's just really has been fun being here with you today and
Thank you.
connecting with your community. So those of you who are curious about me, you can go to livingwithintention.co or you can find me on LinkedIn, April Wyett with an E. A lot of people put an A in there. And I would love to sit down and just have a conversation, see where you're at, and how we can explore together.
Thank you so much. And we will certainly include that in the description here with this episode, so you can easily find April's information there. I want to thank you so much. I love your gentle energy. You're fun, but yet gentle, and the world really needs that right now. So I want to
Mm,
thank you so much for bringing yourself and the way you are to the world. And what you're doing, you're offering these experiences for other people so they can tap into their own energy, their own selves, reconnect with their authentic selves and do what they can do for the world because the world needs everybody right now doing
hmm.
what they're here to do. So
Yes.
thank you so much for that.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Any parting words before we part ways?
Mm, I just would love everybody to just pause and just take an easy breath. Just breathe a little deeper, exhale a little longer, feel your feet on the floor, and remember, life is going to keep coming up,
Mm,
but how are you, rising to it? What are you doing for yourself to
yes.
create more presence so that way you can make clear decisions and be more present in life? This is
Mm,
what living with intention's all about. Yeah.
mm. I love that. Thank you so much. So there is everybody's call to action. After listening to this episode, pause, breathe, take
Yes.
some time for yourself. And if you found that this episode was mm, important for you and you know you can share this with somebody who would also find it important, please share this episode. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you took away from this conversation. And I'm going to hold up my little sign here. I'm going to remind you to do all these things. We would love for you to help us get these episodes out into the world more. So thank you again, April. Thank you, everybody who's listening in. And I look forward to seeing everybody on the next episode. Bye bye.
Be well.